This is our February 6th, 2016 update, 3 days before the New Hampshire primary, entitled Rubio Fake Surge, Why Trump Must Speak Out Now. And we're talking about the secret computer counts. I'll also demonstrate quickly here why we, the people, do not have a say because of these secret computer accounts that the sociopaths behind the Votescam syndicate have imposed upon us. Now, coming out next will be probably a 30-minute, basically, college course on how things work on election night. It's going to be entitled Election Night Gatekeepers. I highly recommend everybody to listen to this. It will bring you up to speed of what I've learned in the last 35 years in just a few minutes. It's probably going to be about 33 minutes, though. As anyone can see watching the media, all 5 TV networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, and Fox, are pushing Rubio. Even when he comes in third place in Iowa, they act like it's above first place. And they're all claiming he's surging with no evidence whatsoever other than that they're claiming he's surging. Well, when all the networks, which most people think are disconnected, when they're actually like the same organization, it's like if you buy Tide or Cheer, Procter & Gamble wins because it's their product. So likewise, whether you believe MSNBC or Fox or some combination of the big TV channels, you're buying from the same group which owns and animates all of them. And they've all been given the order to push Marco Rubio surging, and that naturally affects people who think that they're independent, honest brokers. And a lot of people will start thinking, well, wow, everybody's thinking Rubio's a surge. This is how they do it. Rubio's surging. So this is how they do it. Now, in the media, there's certain things that slip through either because of comments or of personalities that we reported several times. John Berman, 1 week ago, around noon on CNN, somebody said the GOP establishment wants the narrative coming out of Iowa to be that Rubio is surging. And John Berman of CNN, one of their anchors, said he was sitting around with 4 people in Iowa on a panel, and he said that's what the big media wants the narrative to be too, something like that. And so he spilled the beans. Probably was disgusted as a liberal seeing all this fake push for Rubio. This morning, February 6th, on Fox and Friends early, Tucker Carlson came on and said the same thing. He said it is clear that the GOP establishment and the media are coalescing and pushing Rubio. And but he recognized he was kind of puncturing it and saying that this was basically fake, and that it's manufactured, and that Trump actually is doing well in many ways. This is probably why Tucker Carlson doesn't have his own show. Victoria Collier said, that's the daughter of Jim Collier, one of the authors of Votescam, The Stealing of America, the book. And she said, you can't vote the bums out because you didn't vote the bums in. You can't vote the bums out because you didn't vote the bums in. Now notice, first of all, and this 30-minute or so thing I'm about to do called Election Night Gatekeepers shows that the media, the big 5 TV networks, are basically one organization on the essentials, and they blast in uniform. They often issue a series of good polls, but then near the election they issue phony polls. Right now I believe they're faking the polls to make Rubio look like he's doing better than he is in many ways. And then, of course, you got the 3 vote companies, the 3 mega companies that 96% or 99% of our counties hire. And so then people see, well, this doesn't seem right. And they see this happening. They go in and vote in New Hampshire, and a lot of people say that the result they come up with doesn't seem right. Or maybe that happens in South Carolina or Super Tuesday. What can the person do? And the point is, they got us in a position now that we can't do anything. You vote, you see the media pushing Rubio now, let's say, you say on the day of the election in New Hampshire, you'd say, well, we wouldn't really like to see those 80% of the ballots that are counted by computers. And they're going to say, no, you'll be arrested if you try to see them. Call up there if you're anywhere in New Hampshire, and say, when can we see the ballots? When can we count the ballots? Of course, once they remove the ballots from public sight, the chain of evidence is broken. Now, in 20% of the New Hampshire polling places, there is an honest hand count. So we are trying to send, and the Trump people and all candidate campaigns should send people to watch those vote counts at 7 o'clock. It's no time to go to the party. That's when, and you demand to see the vote at close range. Okay, they have no right to keep you back in the bleachers or something like that, as long as you don't interfere with the count. So you want to watch the 120 or so polling places where they count the vote to double check or to kind of have some check on what they're going to publish in the 260 polling places in New Hampshire where they are putting the votes through the computers and no citizen is allowed to get at any of the votes to count them. So the media will announce the vote. In order to, three of the election companies who was ever running has been hired in New Hampshire. They run the count. They give it to News Election Poll, which is owned by the 5 TV networks and AP. The TV networks announce it, and we have to take it on blind faith in the computer part. There's no way to double check what's happening. It should be counted like New Hampshire does in its 10 smaller counties, in the open, right as the polls close. You dump the ballots out, and the ballots can never leave the public sight until they're counted. Now, what we can do, this is not a call to drop out. This is a call to stay involved, but demand and illegitimize the process. In Iowa, we're lucky to have both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump challenging the vote count, even though Trump didn't do it till afterwards, which is not right. You got to do it beforehand so it doesn't seem like sour grapes. But he still have millions of people challenging what happened in Iowa. So does Bernie Sanders, because there was a lot of machinations against Sanders and against Trump. Battle of Athens. What happened in 1946 in Athens, Tennessee, is the guy who was mayor tried to count the votes in secret. The vets returning from World War II broke out the guns and drove him and his sheriffs away. No one was hurt, and they counted the votes in front of the whole public, and the challenger, the World War II vet coming back from overseas, won. Now, you think if they would have let the current then mayor and his sheriffs count the vote, you think that still that the challenger would have won? No. And so what is the establishment pushing us to 3,000 battles of Athens, where the citizens demand that the votes be counted in the open? No one was hurt down there in Athens, Tennessee in 1946, but there's still a bullet hole in the courthouse from some of the shots that were fired. I believe it's a Hallmark movie called An American Story, which fictionalizes that account, but it's pretty good. So what's going to happen now is Trump is so far ahead and has been in the polls, taken all along, that they may let Trump squeak out in New Hampshire. They're probably going to claim Rubio came a lot closer than anybody thought. And Charles Krauthammer, two guys that you can bet know what's going on in the background, are Charles Krauthammer and Bill Kristol of the Weekly Standard. These guys are not what they appear to be. They're not conservatives. Their prime loyalties are elsewhere, but they know the game plan. So when Charles Krauthammer came on Fox last night and said that Trump can't be beat in New Hampshire, that means they've decided that for looks they better let Trump win probably. Rubio will probably come in second. Then in South Carolina, where there's no paper ballots, they may have Rubio win or they may have somebody else. But then on Super Tuesday right now, the establishment, both the GOP and the election fraud establishment, is coalescing behind Rubio. They're going to claim he won. And if Trump doesn't challenge these secret vote counts, and in South Carolina with no paper ballots, but even where there are paper ballots, there's secret vote counts. You can't get at the ballots for 21 days, plenty of time to switch the ballots. So anybody that thinks I'm not telling you the truth, try to call New Hampshire or South Carolina or any place. Say, how can we see the ballots? We don't like these secret counts, and you'll see what you run into, which is going to be they're going to threaten you illegally with policemen to arrest you if anybody tries to see the ballots, even if you make arrangement in advance. And they certainly, these states, New Hampshire, South Carolina, breaking their own state laws, breaking the 3 Supreme Court decisions that are still standing, violating the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. They certainly have no provision for the citizens to look at the vote. Now, the other option is, with Trump still getting so many more times the numbers in crowds that all the others are, they may have to settle for a brokered convention, at which point they will then outmaneuver Trump by all kinds of dirty tricks you can't even imagine. I want to say, Jim Condit Jr. here, founder of Watch the Vote, I want to say for my part, and my part only, the 50 state organizations of the Democrat and Republican Party and the RNC and the DNC, the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee, are criminal operations. They are more dangerous to America than armed robbers at a 7-Eleven. I'm against armed robbers. I think they should be punished to the full extent of the law. But they're not 1/1000th as dangerous to the future of the United States as these crooks running the Republican and Democratic parties at the national level and at all the state levels. So Trump has to speak out now, demand an open count, no secret ballot. He can easily say, look, we just found out there's no ballots in South Carolina. We want an open count. We want paper ballots and an open count. And he said earlier in the campaign when he was called a whiner, he said, I whine and I whine and I whine until I win. So, Mr. Trump, if you hear this, now's the time to whine, but it's not whining. It's standing up for your supporters and for America and for all the other candidates, that we have open counts so we know who wins and who loses. Now is the time. I contend that if Trump does not speak out, he will surely be, quote, defeated, unquote, by these secret computer counts. We already know now that there were many, many dirty tricks in Iowa, and including that at the places where we have eyewitnesses, some of them, they did not check to see if they did not verify to the people there that there was an empty box. They didn't have the people come up and put their little Post-it note votes in there individually. They had them pass it down the aisle so that somebody could add 10 or take away 10 or whatever. Very sloppy. And one, it tells us that the GOP of Iowa doesn't really care that much. They want riggable processes if they can get them. And we can now be sure that the Trump lawyers and the Rand Paul people, nobody did anything to protect their candidates or the supporters of their candidates from a warped vote count, as was the case with Ron Paul in 2012, who was sandbagged by his own paid staff, and the Buchanan camp in 96 had their hands full and never really believed that the system had changed as much as it had since Pat Buchanan was watching at close hand, being part of the Nixon campaigns back in 68 and 72 before there was computer vote counting. So now is the time. In a way, this is the only important issue. If Trump demands this open count in public and condemns the secret computer counts, they'll have a much harder time telling the public that he lost, and if they do, people are going to believe, half the country is going to think he was cheated. Okay, so that's it, and look for the college course coming out shortly, about 30 minutes. It'll be called Election Night Gatekeepers. I wish every concerned citizen in the country would listen to that, and you understand how we're being deceived and violated and cheated on election night by these 12 organizations now that comprise what I call the Votescam syndicate, but they certainly are the election night gatekeepers. Okay, thanks for listening, and this is Jim Condit Jr., and we'll have our February 7th update tomorrow. This has been the February 6th, 2016 update. Rubio Fake Surge, Why Trump Must Speak Out Now. Thank you for listening.